Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. Welcome back to this week. I just love doing this podcast. I love coming on here and sharing this wisdom, this inner knowing, this new way of thinking with you each week. And this week, I'm really excited because we're going to dive into a topic that I think is so important for all the parents out there, regardless of your kid's age. So where I'm at, we are a week away from summer vacation. And summer vacation is a lot of energy and it's a lot of fun. I won't say that I dread it. I'm actually really looking forward to it. But I'm looking forward to it because right now I'm in my ovulation. So that means that I only see the bright, the beautiful, all the ideas of what we could accomplish. I feel the high energy. It's a wonderful feeling. But let's be realistic. If we're tuning into our cycle, next week, I'm going to feel very different, which is when we are going to be starting our summer vacation. So here are some of my tips. And so, I'll gear this around the idea of how to parent using your cycle wisdom with the idea of summer vacation in mind. But if you have little kids that aren't in school, still think about how you can apply this same kind of idea to those little tykes that are in your house right now. So it's really what I have found powerful. I shouldn't say what I have found powerful on my journey of taking my womb wisdom and weaving it into my parenting and my parenting vision. This is what I have found to be helpful. I always dreamed of becoming a mom and to being this mom that would do all the fun stuff, that would, make the time to do the adventures and do the fun crafts and do the baking and cook all the meals and, take them and pick them up from school and go on the field trips. And this is a beautiful image that I had in my head. But practicality of when I became a parent, that was not the case. It's hard. It's hard. And it's been hard because I wasn't tuning into my cycle. And about 2 years ago is when it kind of really locked in of how I could start to use this wisdom of knowing my energy in my different seasons and how to apply it to being a really effective parent. And so as we move into the summer vacation of all the excitement of having our kids home all the time, potentially, if you're at home with them during the day, or if we have little kids, even if our kids are in daycare and we only have a few hours at night, remember, be compassionate with yourself because you've worked all day and you come home and you might be out of energy. And so just start thinking about, regardless of how much time you spend with them, how you can start to apply some of these techniques or this wisdom, let's call it. So the first thing, spring. Let's start with spring. Our inner spring, that's the time after our bleed is done, but before we ovulate. So our inner spring time, this is a time where we are really good at planning out tasks. I would actually suggest that your first day of spring or first 2 days to sit down and plan out how the next 4 weeks potentially are going to operate for you, because it will relieve so much tension. Because what we often do is we think of all the fun things that we want to do here and we try to implement them all, and we can't implement them all throughout the month because we'll be completely run down. So if we take the time on that day 1, day 2 of our inner spring and really sit with what is it that I want to do and when is the best time in my cycle to do it? So for my springtime, I love to plan here. This is the time for me to go and pick up the supplies. I go to the craft store if that's what we're going to do. This is when I want to play more board games as well. Like I can get into the excitement of board games. I can get into the, the rowdiness or the noisiness that can come with board games sometimes. This is my time that I want to connect in a really playful way. But my energy might still be a little bit low. So it might not be like, let's go on this big, long adventure or go to the zoo. Like that might be too much for my beginning of my inner spring. But this really is a time where I can do some of those funner activities with them. And so crafts, this is a time in my system that I have the power to do crafts. I'm not a craft person, but this is where I can sit down and do a craft with them. I can sit down and do baking with them. Baking I can also do in my fall, but this is a time when I can just really attentively be there with them and really make this an experience of connection with them. When we move into our summer, our inner summer phase, so this is our ovulation time. And remember, ovulation is, we give it a full week here because the potency of the energy is here for a full week. So this is usually around day 13, 14, all the way up to about 19, 20-ish. And so this is the time in our cycle where, we can do all the things. This is where I actually want to go to spray parks, or I want to go to the zoo, or I want to go on family vacations, or camping. Camping can be a fun one here. Like this is where we do those big activities that require a lot of us to be with our kids. Like this is a lot of interaction. This is a lot of us giving our energy out to the world, but we also are so excited to receive the energy from other people as well. Like we really want to be with our kids during this time. So this is a good time to do those big, fun, energy draining activities. The ones where you're outside all day and you come home and you're like, whoa, what a day. Like this is the time to do those things. Now, as we move into our inner fall, as we move into the second half of our cycle, this is where I think society has failed us in giving us the tools to know how to parent effectively or how to parent with ourselves in mind. So this whole idea of mom comes first, or that mom is just as important, or if you listen to last week's podcast where I had our guest speaker on who shared that there's this inner feeling of no one's going to care for us as well as we care for everybody else. It's that same kind of idea that starts to seep in our inner fall. And we have to really acknowledge this. Pushing against it or running from it or saying that, this doesn't exist or I'm a bad parent, this isn't helpful. And I think this is where, our mentors, our mothers, our aunts, our best friends, our mommy groups on social media, all these different arenas have really set us up to fail because they only show all the bright inner summer moments. They don't show the deep exhaustion that happens with the inner fall. And if we are really tuning into our cycle and our inner wisdom and really starting to put ourselves into the mix of how we can nourish ourselves, we have to honor this inner fall phase. And so in the inner fall, this is my experience in the inner fall. One, I have a hard time with sound. I become really sensory sensitive. I shouldn't even say sound, sensory sensitive. Like I'm sensitive to what I hear. I'm sensitive to what I touch, like what's touching me. I need my personal space bubble here. And so I have to pick activities that are really low in sound. So like how I mentioned in my inner spring, I could play board games. I can't really do that well in the inner fall. I can hold a small window of capacity for it. And it has to be a pretty quiet game. Like it can't be Hungry Hippos or Operation. Those are too noisy for me. Maybe a card game or checkers. Those I can do. But this is a lot of what I like to call my one-on-one time with my kids. So this is where, like I said before, baking, this is where I can read stories with them. This is a time of like no crafts. I cannot handle all the sparkles, all the cut pieces of paper everywhere, like the inner control, I want to call it control freak, or the person who needs a clean house, like it all gets amplified here. So those things are like off the table. The spilled paint, all of it becomes too much for my brain. So in the inner fall, I like to do things that are more of calming activities. Now, this doesn't mean that my kids are received that well. Often my kids are still in that high energy of me playing with them in the inner summer, and they still want that to show up. So some things that you can think about doing here, because it's important to remember yourself in this phase, is this is where you can plan play dates for your kids to go to other kids' houses, right? Inner spring, inner summer, you have the kids come to your house. You have the capacity for it. But inner fall, that's when you can set up for another mom to take yours. Use community. This is a time where you can make one-on-one baking projects. So I'm not really good with baking with all three of my kids at once. And this time I like to do one-on-one. I'll do a movie night here. I do low-key things. But one thing that is really important for me in this phase, and that I highly recommend every mom, regardless of the age of your children, doing, is scheduling in you time during this time. So this might be having a conversation with your partner of saying, hey, I'm home all day with them. When you come home, it's my inner fall. I need you to take over. For myself, I usually eat supper in a different room at this time because I've been with my kids all day. Like I've been in that energy and I just need a quiet space to taste my food, to be gentle with myself, to not have to take a bite, then get up and get some juice for somebody and then come back down, take another bite and then get more seconds for the next kid. Like this is my time where I just need to be in my bubble. And then I would even say like, be practical about the day. Don't try to be super mom here. So in my inner fall, I might do something like go for a nature walk where I can reground out in nature and it's a little bit of medicine for myself. And then we'll come home, we'll do an activity together. And then it's like, you know what? You guys get to watch TV for a bit. I'm going to go read a book, maybe do a yoga nidra, do something for myself. And then I prepare supper and then I sneak away to eat my meal. And then I may do bedtime or I may ask my partner to do bedtime because once again, that touch, if I've had kids touching me all day, I might need just a little bit of my own personal space. So my biggest message, and I think this is where we struggle a lot, is that we feel that rising PMS, that we want to call it, that irritability, and this is just a sign that we haven't taken enough time for us, that we haven't cared for us. So when you feel that irritability coming out, it's not that you're a bad parent. It's not that, you can't be an amazing mom. It is really that you just need more time for you. So carve in that time, like literally write it in your day timer. From this time to this time, it's me time. And plan things that are for you, that are replenishing for you during this phase. Now, summertime, if you're at home with your kids all summer, your inner fall might be a time where you plan massages in the evenings. You've been home all day with these kids. So plan some self-care stuff outside of the house without your kids in the evening when you have someone else to watch your children for you. Replenish by taking time for you, okay? Now, inner winter. Inner winter is a hard one for so many of us because we say we can't rest. We can't take that time for ourselves. We are moms. It's not like we have a magical switch where we can just say, you know what, I'm not parenting for the next 5 days. That's not realistic. It's the same as with our work life. It's not like we can say I'm bleeding for these 5 days, so I'm just not going to work at all. But we can find creative ways to honor our inner winter, our menstruation, that time when we really need more rest. So now my kids are a little bit older now. It wasn't so easy when they were younger, but now I give myself permission to tell them, go downstairs, turn on the TV. My oldest can do it all on her own. And I just stay in bed for a little bit longer. I don't necessarily go back to sleep. Sometimes I just lay there and look at the ceiling. I just move at a slower rate. I definitely don't do crafts here. I definitely don't do big events. I don't go to the zoo or do anything where it's going to require a lot of my energy. This is a really small pocket of time for you to just care for yourself. And you can't always care for yourself perfectly, but you can take time for yourself. So let's use the example of us going on a family vacation and our period's going to land right in the middle of the family vacation. It just might mean on those vacation days that you make some kind of schedule for yourself that you're resting, right? So it might be, okay, from 9 to 11, we got to do these few things, but then we're going to go out for lunch and I'll eat my lunch and then I'll give my partner the responsibility of, going to the beach with them or going for a walk with them. Well, I just sit by myself for a little bit and I just reflect. And I just take in a little bit of the experience of being on vacation during this really exhausting time for myself. I also find that this is a great time just to really pause and take gratitude in things, right? So you may not feel you're optimal. You might not feel like you're being the best parent in the world. But, in those moments where you get a little bit of time for yourself going, wow, I did that. I just parented for 2 hours. That is a big accomplishment. Congratulations. Thank you. I did a really good job at holding space for that. And I am really grateful that I'm also now noticing that I need to take a little bit of time for myself. So just know that it's not about going into a complete rest state for our menstruation in the modern world, but it is about how can I do 30% less. Maybe that is you only barbecue so that you're not cooking. It's throwing hamburgers and hot dogs on the barbecue. And they might have hamburgers and hot dogs for 3 meals in a row. It doesn't matter. It might be eating boxed cereal. It's about what can you do to make your life as simple, as effortless, and as low critical thinking as possible during this time. What can you do to help support yourself here? This is also a great time to call in the extra help. Call in the family members to come and spend some time. Maybe you, I know for myself, I didn't really, we had 3 car seats, so it was really hard for anyone to take our kids anywhere. But what I would do is I would drive to the place, drop the kids off with them, and then I would get a 2-hour break, either in my car, in a coffee shop, do something, and then I pick my kids up and take them home. So there is creative ways and solutions that we can do to really support ourselves in this time where it's just really asking us to do less. Now, here's the thing, is that when we do these things, when we simply listen to our womb wisdom and we start to get creative with solutions of how we can just shift our ideas of everything that we have to accomplish as a parent and really put into that quadrant of these 4 different categories, saying, okay, this week, these are my responsibilities. This week, this is my responsibilities. This week, this is my responsibilities. And really putting activities that, match our energy. What's going to happen is we're going to feel more balanced. We're likely to have less painful periods, less of those premenstrual syndrome side effects, like the PMS stuff. This is where we'll be more compassionate with ourselves. And this is where we can also start to show how we can be examples of how we want our kids to hold space. So if we have little girls, this is us showing and modeling what it's like to live cyclically and that it is okay. We are in a time right now in the world where big transformation's happening. The world cannot exist how it's been existing for the last 50 years. It cannot. The environment's blowing up right now. There's so many issues everywhere, and we are declaring that change is on the horizon, that we need it. So this is us being part of the change. This is us demonstrating and modeling to our young girls that no, moving forward in your life, you are allowed to live like this. You're allowed to have time for you. You're allowed to be held by community so that you can be supported. And then you can go and have fun. You can be 4 different women and it is okay. And then for all of us that have little boys, and I have a little boy as well, it is so important for them to see a different way of living. It's so important for them to see that women need this kind of cyclical space, and that part of them having a different hormonal build is for them to hold the capacity to allow us to be different than them, right? For us not, the expectation for us not to be the same as them. But that when we give space for differences, for different needs, for more compassion, for more creative thinking, then what happens is we all live in harmony. We all can be a support system to each other, because there will be times in a little boy's life as they grow that they're going to go through their own stuff. But you will be able to better hold space and help them through that because they have in return held space and allowed you the time for your healing, for what your body needed. And so right now, all this is modeling healthy living. It's modeling how we can truly show up in a way that honors what our body is asking for us. And that is, I think, my personal opinion, the key to unlocking so much health issues that we are seeing in the world. Because a lot of health comes from chronic stress, or health issues, comes from chronic stress. And we are living in an environment right now where a lot of people, there's an epidemic happening of stress. And so if we can start to put in different rules, let's say, or different systems that support us de-stressing the body, for us to be able to rest, for us to be able to be cared for and held, oh my gosh, the whole world is going to change in the health industry. This is how we're going to create healing. This is how we're going to create longevity. This is how we're going to create, more self-compassion. This is the way that we start to heal all that's happening right now within our life that feels out of whack. So have fun. Go forth. Enjoy your summer vacation if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere. And get playful. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, think about how you can do this anyways. Because this isn't just my summertime plans. This is how I parent all the time, every day, every month with my kids. And it works. And it's effective. And today, I'm in my inner summer, so we're going to go to the bookstore because they want to buy some books. We're going to jump on the trampoline. We're going to go for a nature walk. And then next week, we're probably going to do a little bit more inward stuff. We're going to be a little bit of just school just wrapped up. Let's just take a week to regain. And then, then I'll be my interwinter and then I really will relax. But my inner winter, I plan on getting support with my mom. I'm going to be with my mom for a bit, and she's going to be with my children, give me space to rest. And then, welcome spring. The planning begins. By the second week in July here, I am going to be planning out our next 2 months of all the fun that we can have and being creative in thinking about how I can create fun that doesn't require a huge energy output for those 2 weeks that I need to move a little bit more slower. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And make sure you reach out into the Facebook group or send me an email with any questions you might have. And let's get playful with how to parent being cyclical moms. For way too long, as women, we have been guided to hate our menstrual cycle and to curse our hormones. We have lost the art of seeing the inner power of being cyclical. So, if this podcast is inspiring you and waking up a new curiosity of how your cycle can be your superpower, I invite you to check out the She Sisterhood. This is a monthly membership that will align you to your unique rhythm through aligned womb yoga practices, cycle coaching on how to weave your cycle wisdom into everyday life, and to be part of a community of women that are awakening to their inner power. Remember, womb wisdom equals connection to self, which ultimately equals inspired living. And if you love this episode, don't forget to rate and review. I love seeing how this information is transforming your life.